In today's cyber world, the wolves are attacking. Is your company safe? HP Enterprise printers are built to help keep your company protected with layers of security that can stop the wolves in their tracks. Upgrade to HP Enterprise printers and keep the wolves out of your neck of the woods. Nothing is safe if your office isn't HP secure. HP Business Printing, the world's most secure printers. See the wolf and HP in action. Visit hp.com/the wolf.
Good morning and welcome to the Super Soul Sister Sunday prayer call. I hope that everyone can hear me out there in the land. Today is Sunday, May the 7th, and welcome to our year of our yes, action, alignment, and abundance. I am one of your co-hosts, Minister Dana Beasley, and this month, in the month of May, it is our special month as it is the month of our Rev Coach's birthday. And this month, we are going to be looking at the game of yes and how to play it. And so, with that, I would like to introduce our host, our juicy mama, our priestess of passion, the coach's coach, just to name a few, the Reverend Latanya Taylor. And to you, my sister, I'll pass it on. Are you there? Good morning, Reverend Latanya. Are you there? There may be some technical difficulty either on my end or hers. This is a new system that we are using. Reverend Latanya, I can't hear you. I have a message that you are there. So everyone who is listening, please bear with us. And if you can have access to your mic, please speak up so that I know that someone can hear me. Bear with us as we're going through a few technical difficulties. I'm not sure if I can be heard or if you're hearing someone else. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Sister Dawn. So I don't know if anyone can hear Reverend Latanya, but we are here this morning, and we're going to start this time out with the game of yes and how to play it. Thank you, Sister Dawn. So I understand you all can hear me, but cannot hear our lovely Rev Coach. So she will be on in just a moment. I hope that everyone has had a wonderful week and has enjoyed our year of yes so far, as we just ended with the power of she. And now this month, in our birthday month of the Reverend Coach, we will be starting the game of yes and how to play it. We have an all-star lineup for you all in this month. So get ready and be here on time, because we will start on time. We have about 3 special guests this month coming to you. And so I hope that you are ready for a power-packed month as we learn how to play the game of yes. So, Rev Coach, I'm just going to check one more time. Are you there, my sister? Okay, I don't hear her just yet. And so I want to just kind of have everyone bear with us for a few moments, as we are using a new platform. And sometimes when you use a newer platform, you do have those technical difficulties. So even in saying yes, we have to learn what some of the challenges are that surround our yes, and just learn how to work through them, not run away from them. And so that happens oftentimes in life, is that when we're challenged, even with our yes, we'll tend to say yes but run away. And so this is a perfect opportunity to show that even when you say yes and you're faced with adversities, you still have to stick through it and go forward and upward. This is how we boost ourselves up and show the universe that we are committed to our yes and not just having lip service out there. And so this morning I'm going to start a little bit with a praise report. I'm just so excited because I got to a point this week where, the money was looking a little funny. And it got down to my last $50, and I had to take my daughter down to a birthday party yesterday and get gifts and everything. And don't you know, by the time I got home, because I just played yesterday, I didn't do anything, no worrying, I just played. Even though the day started off a little rocky, I played yesterday with my daughter at this birthday party. And by the time I got home and opened up my mailbox, inside was a check, a very substantial check waiting for me. And all I could do was just give thanks and say, thank you, universe, for all that you do and have done and continue to do. Because I was down, y'all, and I mean down. Even though I went to this party and I had $50 starting out in the day, by the end of the party, I had $2. But now, oh, now, I just give thanks for saying yes to not worrying, for saying yes to not thinking about the struggle of the week, for saying yes to not being concerned with anything except playing with my daughter and saying yes. Well, guess what? It pays off. That is how when you say yes to the universe and the universe answers, it hears you loud and clear and answers and says, come on, my child, I'm going to boost you up and meet the need. And so I just give all praises and thanks for that this morning. So I'm going to, Reverend Latanya, are you there? Reverend Latanya, are you there? Okay, we still can't hear her just yet. So we're going to bear with her just a moment until we get the technical difficulties worked out.
Dana, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I hear you loud and clear.
Good morning, everyone. I could go into what the little idiosyncrasies of this system, but I actually was on from the very beginning, talking and doing the intro at the same time, but none of you all could hear me. So just we're gonna just proceed right on into the topic this morning. I heard you sharing a little bit, Dana. I won't be tested with my yes, man. I could totally turn the subject in with the how when you do say yes and make changes, you run into things like this. But it should be interesting to discover. I'm going to jump right into the word this morning just because of the time that has passed. And, welcome again to the Super Soul Star Sunday. And I am your host, Reverend Latanya Taylor, for those of you who are joining for the very first time. I actually was even getting text messages. Can you put me on? Like really, no, I can't. I have to focus on just getting on myself. So hopefully, if you are a new sister, you did make it on. It's easier for you on this end. Welcome to the month of May. And even as I was introducing in my studies the game of yes and how to play it, I hear Spirit say, may the yes be with you, just because of the force and the power of the yes that we are going to be discovering. I was actually in a coaching call, and I got this word from the download. Those of you who know that when there's a part of my coaching that is a formula and it is strategy and it is teaching, but then there's a part that's absolutely pure transmissions from spirit. And as the sister was sharing, I heard the story of Leah. And that story and you say, well, does Leah have a story? Well, the truth is every woman in the Bible has a story, and this is exactly where I'm going with this today. So I'm going to get to how to use your yes, how to begin activating your yes. However, I want to set this up properly because perhaps maybe you can see yourself in Leah. Sometimes we make assumptions that just because many of us have professed one particular religion or denomination that we really have done our own study and study beyond just the recommended books. But I want you to walk with me a little bit physically and then a little bit metaphysically, because Leah has a word that sparked other words and more word that's coming. if you know the story of Leah and Jacob and Rachel, they were in a bit of a love triangle. Jacob wanted to marry Rachel, but she was the younger sister, and the father had to say when it came to wives, even though he was clear in his choice. And they had this special kind of love connection that happened even before. He saw her long before he actually asked for her. Well, Laban was a little bit tricky. Well, it's very interesting because Jacob had met his match. Jacob is a little bit tricky himself. And so his actual field was in trouble. His wealth, during this time, your wealth was determined by either your crops or your livestock. And to be quite honest with you, women did not have much more value than livestock. So they were oftentimes negotiated in that way. In this case, Rachel was very, very beautiful. And he knew he had something very special. I'm paraphrasing it. You could read this even in the Message Bible in paraphrased way. And when this strong buck called Jacob comes asking for his daughter, he negotiated a deal that would allow him to bring back his wealth with his livestock. He knew that Jacob was a skilled farmer. He was strong. But see, Jacob, just to show you how universal law works, is Jacob his very name means the trickster. He's also known as Yaqub in the Quran, which means to be a trickster. So here Laban makes a deal with him. Basically, I'll give you 2 for 1, but you must work for me for a certain amount of years. And we could get into that number. I don't even want to say it because I'll start preaching that, but I want you to read the story. And he goes on and he marries. He marries both of them. Well, pretty much Leah, definitely. And Leah probably thought she wasn't going to get married because they said that Leah had something going on with her eye. Either one eye was one different color, or she had a lazy eye. She wasn't as attractive. It wasn't easy on the eyes. And Leah, and actually Leah knew this. Apparently, it was when you study the history and do a little research, he knew this. So always loved Rachel more because that's who he really wanted. And it showed up in really when Leah started to have children with her yes, because, when you say I do, just those vowels alone are set up in a way that they're contracts that we really have not evaluated the fine print of what we're saying energetically. We'll study fine print of other things, and some of us won't even do that, depending on what it is that we're signing. We actually can hide things by if you have to read it, right? You all have heard this before. Well, I saw her yes. And I thought that this was interesting that she gave birth to 4 sons, right? She gave birth and she conceived a son called Reuben. She gave birth and she said, because the Lord has looked upon my affliction. She saw herself as afflicted. There's a word for women who oftentimes see whatever the handicap is, whatever the challenge is, as an affliction, as a victim, as something imperfect. And now maybe this time my husband will love me. So then she conceived again and bore a son. And she said, because the Lord has heard that I'm hated, has he given me a son also. And this time she named this one Simeon. And then the next time she said yes again with her womb, and she conceived a son. And she said, now this time my husband will be attached to me because I have bore him 3 sons. and this one she named Levi. And then she conceived again, and she bore another son. And this is when the storyline shifts. Something happens for Leah, and this time, instead of looking for the love, because the words of the scripture kind of tell you when we are saying yes, but our yes is external. Our yes is a bargaining chip, and some of us have been taught to use our womb as a bargaining chip. Some of us have been taught to use our affliction as a reason to accept any offer or to get into contracts that right now we find ourselves in, whether it be raising the children where we were not conscious of who we were, or whether it be the relationship that we have to have with different fathers. Oh, well, look, you said, well, I haven't had any children. I've made the right choices, and there's something for you too, because what I want you to know is that each child represents a tribe. And you don't know about the 12 tribes. So this is when you start getting the tribes. Well, see, tribes then represent collective thoughts and consciousness. So the tribe, whenever you see group, it's about groupthink. And sometimes our yes to even ourselves and the life choices that we've made is informed by group thinking, by taking care of the tribe, and or even just the collection of thoughts that we've had that we haven't evaluated. Well, something happened for Leah with this fourth child. And 4 is a significant number because it's the number of foundations. And then something happened in her womb where she had a yes, but she said, this time I will praise the Lord. You all have been with me long enough to know that Lord is law of consciousness. And when we start talking about praise, we're talking about amplification. I will amplify the I am consciousness. It made me think about the scripture that says, I will bless the Lord, the law of life, at all times, and his praises shall continually be in my mouth. And then that's the beginning of your yes, because at the beginning of your yes, there are going to be times when you won't have a praise. You won't know how to do it. You're just going to have to do it. It has to be the thing that shifts whatever it is that you are doing. And sometimes it looks like you cannot do it. Sometimes when a woman in the physical keeps getting pregnant with child after child, and she hasn't given her womb a chance to rest, they have something called a prolapse womb, and the womb begins weakening. But what's interesting is the scripture says that she named this one Judah. Oh, my God. Now, this began a level of study for me that was so emotional, but it had me in a vortex almost for about 10 hours. One morning of study. So I can't give you 10 hours, but I can tell you that there's more coming on from the game of yes and how to play it, because it took me to this place where it says, and then she ceased bearing. My God, you would think that maybe her fertility would open up a little bit because she now, her yes was her own. Her yes was higher than just looking for the external validation, the acceptance, the belonging, the attachment, to be the chosen one, to be liked, to be loved. She starts, something happen, and Judah it represents one of those tribes. Well, I started to do a little research with my husband this morning. This was a strong mastermind session. And so we started to look. Y'all know that these tribes also physically start to represent genealogy. They see this was a real thing, because in Costa Rica, back in the woods, we met one of the men. He wasn't quite a Gree, but he was a native Jamaican, and I have the video footage somewhere. I have to find it. It was such a powerful thing, because they called it service, and really we were just under a little covering. And we were sitting there, and there was two brothers, and they kind of allowed me to be there, because there was a little sexism. There's still a little sexism going on, but they didn't know who was sitting there having this moment with them. But I knew who I was, and I knew how to sit and receive. And so they got into the discussion of the tribes. Now, this brother really has no TV. He's never been to the United States. He's just as very off the grid as you could ever imagine, a shaman artist of sorts. And so my husband and him began to go backwards and forwards on the tribes. And he talked about how this tribe of Judah, when the tribe of Judah wakes up. And I thought about it, I said, well, I could see how we in America are the tribe of Judah, that the other tribes are waiting to wake up. But I started to go a little bit further in this tribe of Judah, because everybody loves a Judah praise. Everybody wants to have a Judah praise when your manifestation has come. Judah is a high praise, and that's what Rachel bore from her womb. But see, the whole discussion in the Bible is really about a core level yes that begins to happen, where something begins to happen in consciousness, because every woman is responsible for bringing forth a tribe. If you go on and study this text, there were more children that were assigned to Jacob. He got assigned other wives and concubines, and so they continued, and so now you have more. And so what about the women? If the children represent a tribe, who does the woman represent? Oh my God. I got to come back to that, because if there were 12, there weren't quite 12 women, fewer women who were birthing these tribes that would begin to represent nations. Well, who represents nations? And our study and our genealogy took us all the way to Egypt. And then we looked at it on the map. We started to say, who is Simeon? And then who is Geb? And we looked at the Africans, and but then when you go and study, not only do they represent the particular physical tribes on the land, just like your consciousness does not just represent what it is you're experiencing in this physical body. Your consciousness represents much, much more, because then the tribes, the number 12 starts to represent more, starts to represent the planets. And then it represents the chakras. But see, we haven't really walked through the 7 chakras, so we don't really understand that there are 12 chakra systems and many, many more even beyond the 12. And then it represents the planets. Oh, God, yeah, that's the layers and the codes of this yes. This yes begins to open up a whole new game. See, the game is you can stay on the chessboard and you can be a pawn in the game, and you think that you don't have any control. But then when I started to look at this level of yes, I started to see how even pawns can win the actual game. Did you know that? Even though we talk about protect the queen, but there's so much more. My husband and I, we were looking, and he said, but what if, and really he wasn't saying what if as if it was a possibility. He said it from the place of knowing. What if all the whole game on the chessboard owned the whole game? Because I would go further to say that if these women gave birth to tribes or nations, who were they? What does their womb represent? Well, I started with Rachel, because Rachel began to speak to me then. Because here is Rachel. She is the chosen one, but she was diagnosed as barren because she did not bear children. In fact, she had a couple of children at first, but it was through her. Here we go now. So then Rachel something happens, and she begins to have a couple of children. And from what I understand is it wasn't easy for Rachel, Come on now. Some of us know that we see people that looks like things just come easy to us, and sometimes we have to pray a little bit more. We have to change our diet a little bit more. We have to surrender a little bit more. And I thought about Rachel, and I thought about, wow, look at what she gave birth to because of her patience. And then we started to see the lineage even more of Joseph, and Joseph being the granddaddy of Jesus. And I mean, we could go further and further, well, really the daddy, and we could see the connection, the divinity that all came from these wombs. And it's interesting that we have been programmed and shaped by texts that leave out the details about us. And it's interesting that the woman has to go on her own rites of passage to find who she really is and what she's connected to. Don't you think that's interesting? Well, let me just tell you where mine began. And here's a little strategy for you. It won't take long, but I will be strong. I will say this. I remember when I first decided that I was committed to this journey. I was in Chicago, Illinois, and I received a call in my spirit then, and I began to study. At that time, there were not all these coaches out here. When you went to the bookstore, most of the writers were writing about Black history, struggle narratives, biographies. There were not a lot of women like the Reverend Dr. Iyanla Vanzant. I'm just going to tell you. If there were Black women in the coaching industry who were doing this kind of work, they weren't doing it with Black women the way she was doing it. I know of some other women who are the mothers of this coaching movement, who a lot of people do not give credence to, Black women at that, who started this business, but they were still working more on the corporate side. And so here I am. I decided that I'm going to do this second-tier program because now I'm living in Maryland. I had already started studying with her, and I really had wanted to, just like some of you who started studying with me. She did not have the institute developed, but many of us wanted to glean from her, so she had small trainings. Some of you are with me like that. You're with me for every phase. Count it not robbery, because we didn't know at the time that Iyanla was going to be on Oprah. We didn't know that she was going to birth more books. We just knew that the kind of work that was being done was something that was not being supplied in the regular world. It was touching us in a different kind of way. It was otherworldly. And so I knew that I was embarking on something really special for my life. And I couldn't see the money. Oh, come on now, some of y'all who have these conversations. I couldn't see the money. Didn't mean that the money wasn't there, but I couldn't see the money. And I was very much in my employee mindset. Employee mindset causes you to make decisions based off of your paycheck, what you can see. You make decisions based off of oftentimes, am I going to have enough? Will there be enough? Well, I'm already robbing Peter to pay Paul, and so now how am I going to take care of myself? I know that this is imminent. I know that this is something that I will do. And look, I picked up the phone. I let my yes be demonstrative. And so I picked up my phone. I called one of the master teachers, who is the mother of InterVision's Mama Almasi. One day I'm going to have her on this call real soon this summer. She asked about the work that I'm doing, and she is just as fundamental in my life as an elder as Iyanla, because when Iyanla was out doing one thing, Mama Almasi was in the background, kind of like Dana, doing another thing. You've seen her pops in my life, and you definitely have seen maybe some other things that I've tagged her in. And so Mama Almasi is the woman who taught me the beginning of my yes and how to play this game of yes. And she told me, I said, okay, I want to register. What do I do? I really need this. I want to do something. She said, is this something that you really, really want? And of course I answered, well, yes. And she said, well, I have something for you to do. She's a sweet, tender woman. She said, just write the check. And I said, what? Now, trust me, there was some horrification there. I made that word up, horrification. Dana, you can start taking some of the calls off mic if you're able to. I'm off of mute if you can do that. And as I picked my jaw up from my lap, I wrote about this now in my newsletter. She said, "Write this check, and the funds will follow." I said, "What?" She said, "The universe abhors a void." Now, I knew at that point, as I wasn't ordained yet, I had not been through many of the rites of passage yet. I was still green, like some of you all feel when I'm talking, I'm saying stuff, but I knew that I had been reading enough of the metaphysical foundations to understand this true. The universe abhors a void. And this was the moment that I got to question, what do you really believe, LaTanya? What do you really, or do you really want it? What do you really believe? I mean, inside I'm thinking, that is not responsible. I don't know where that money's going to come from. I don't handle my business like that. I'll commit to you because I don't want to owe you nothing. Come on now. She said, this is how you use the tools of reality creation. After the yes response, you must do a demonstration. On the chessboard, you can't think about making a move. You got to demonstrate a move. You got to do the check that day, leaning a little bit on her faith and a whole lot on my faith in universal law. After that, I was able to find a travel buddy. I secured time off work. That was the one thing that to this day, I never missed paying a bill. I don't even know how. Every bit of the money was there to pay. Everything that I needed was supplied extra, like the transportation to get there. I didn't have to take care of the meals. I just went into the experience. Now, that was the first time. The next time was when, as an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, now, 7 years later, after I have all done all of this work, I'm ordained. I know the principles, but now I'm a goddess, and I know the principles of pleasure, and I'm saying a bigger yes. I want to say to you that your yes will be upgraded, because in Rachel, she was loved. She had a yes too, but she didn't get what she wanted. She could have went into the story of she was second best, and so she chose these concubines. Sometimes I had to look. I said, well, goodness, if the concubines here, they are serving a very high and divine purpose, but sometimes they're not given the divine status of being called a wife, meaning they are not secure by the land and the property and the ownership like a wife would be. They really are seen at the level of servant. Oh, my God, this will bless you right here. And I said, well, look at the concubine, because sometimes the concubine, it does represent that feminine principle that comes in to give birth. It's a way that the feminine begins to serve you. Oh, my God. The feminine that steps in as a womb, they represent a role in birthing the vision. And sometimes you may have to lean on your sisters. Sometimes you may have to lean into the feminine and borrow their faith and their ability to do what you cannot do for a moment. It does not mean that you cannot do it, but you don't speak while they are being assigned to you and you're still going through your process. You keep on praying. You keep on saying, just like Leah said, and this time I will praise the Lord. And this time, and this time, and this time, I will praise the Lord. And then every time I do it, I'm going to follow it up with a radical action, with a demonstration. And so this time I was working for myself. Like Leah had birthed all these things, I had birthed all these things for other people. I was working in pulpits, and I had been in Intervisions, and I had been over here at this organization, and I had been at this, and somewhere along the line, when I got laid off or my contract ended, I had to ask myself, when are you going to say yes to you? When are you going to do this? And so I did another time. Now, this has become a lifestyle for me, but this particular time, there was an upgrade. I had to step out in another way just to manifest what it is I desired, out of what appeared out of thin air. Is manifesting an entire cruise, not just any cruise, a celebrity-filled cruise with my own stateroom and balcony that I didn't have to pay for, all with practicing the art of my yes. At this time when I wrote this article, The Art of the Yes, it was an art. It was the spiritual arts for me. But now, as I go further into business, I came to tell you this morning that it's also a game. And that there's a part of when you get ready to play a bigger game, that you got to understand that there's a game in process. And sometimes you got to learn what the function is for the pieces on the board, so that when you make your move, your yes comes from the awareness that of what the art of your yes began to teach you. And then sometimes it will come from the beginning of your yes, when the teachable yes, I had a teachable yes that started this. And then I started living the art of my yes as a goddess. But then you're invited to the game of your yes. You see, none of this stuff was really personal that was happening. None of this was happening. Can you all do a mic check? I want to make sure that you all can hear me. I'm going to unmute the mic as I finish and close. None of this was personal. You see, men and women during this day, they had a different role in each other's lives. We could look at this and probably be horrified. Many of us would not co-sign for polygamy, even though it had a role. It had a role in the economy and the business of family. Many of us would not even have co-signed for a man to marry our sister, and then we still love him. But that had a purpose. There was a different game of marriage that was being played, and many of us are still trying to play the game of our yes by old rules. We have not upgraded our yes with cosmic rules and cosmic ways of being. In other words, Leah, I had to read the story, but in order for me to keep on seeing the stages of development spiritually, emotionally, and physically, I had to keep on studying the story. I had to keep on studying what the yes represented. What does your yes represent for you? Do you know that you are in the game? Some of us don't want to get in the game because we only want to be sure that we're going to win the game. Come on now. We don't play games. Some of y'all, I grew up for a period of time saying, I don't play games. And it showed up in me taking myself too seriously. My husband has me on this track now. Even he wants to teach me how to do a good game of spades, because I love to cook and entertain and all that good stuff. But he feels like, look, we Team Bay over here, and sometimes I want you, baby. You the best partner, baby, to have across the table for me. I'll accept another partner, but I want you. Oh, come on now, just like the Jacob and the Leah story. He's like, I'll accept another partner, but I want you to be my partner and play the game with me. And that story shows up in other parts of our even in our marriage. There are times when he'll introduce me to something and I have resistance. And I don't say yes first. I say, let me look at it. Let me examine it. Let me see it. But sometimes when you want to surrender, there's a time when you are going to have to say yes because of who you are. You got to be able to say yes because you know what your vision is. and that you know that you're going somewhere. And sometimes it may require you to take yourself seriously, and sometimes it may require you not to take yourself so seriously. And you know, they talk about, even in another game, they say have a poker face. Come on now. Games make up a whole bunch of the decisions that we have made about who we are. And you got to know so that the game is not being played on you. A poker face is one game reference. Come on now. We could go through. I want you, when you get ready to talk, tell me some of the other game references that you have heard that have informed how you play your game, or if you play at all. Some of us have been on the sidelines. I learned this too with the Reverend Dr. Iyanla Vanzant, because many times when we want to just win, we want to ensure that we win the game, we will not play. That, let me tell you how that shows up. That shows up for some of you who are single and you want to be a wife, but that's winning to you. And so you don't know how to be a good date or a girlfriend. And so when you go on the date, you start asking wife kind of questions. You start interviewing because you don't trust and believe that you will know, that it will be revealed to you. Yes, you can ask, interview, and that guarantees you nothing. Nothing. Come on now, if you ever been married before and you feel like you did it all right, you went to the marriage counselor, you was faithful and loyal, you were this and you that, you that didn't matter, because there was a human element that you cannot calculate. And sometimes what looks like a human element is a divine element, because after you went through the upset of having to release the thing that you took vows for, some part of you at the end, when you go through and say, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm out of that. Oh my God, I feel like I got my life back. But in the beginning, you may have thought you lost. The game of yes does not always guarantee that you're going to win every time you make a move. On the chessboard, you may get trumped. You may not have a poker face or a spade face or whatever it is from the game. And here, one of the games, the biggest games that have been played on us is the theology and doctrine of sin. Sin was born from a game called Sinnery. And Sinnery began to become a part of the doctrine in order to captivate the minds of the people, to give them the reference point of punitive consequences. That when you miss the mark, this is going to happen to you. When you miss the mark, that is going to happen to you. Oh, go study old Rome. And that's how these human games with human lives, in order to conquer the minds of the people so that they can get their money. Commerce is a game, baby. But when you start to understand that even business, spiritual business, is a game too. And so some of us have spiritual business on the earth. And I don't know about you. I know I have some spiritual business on the earth. I don't know about you, but there are times when I have to make investments in my vision that I cannot see what the return is until I walk it. The path is only going to unfold to me as I walk it in this kind of game. It's the elevated game of the goddess. It's the part of you that has to begin to access different parts of your consciousness, because the 12 tribes also represent 12 levels of consciousness, 12 discipleships. Come on now. There were 12 disciples who sat at the table. Y'all read it in the book of John and the story of this and the story of that. Come on now. But guess what? They represent something in consciousness. Rachel spoke to me because she gave birth to Judah, and Judah and Judah is one of the most phenomenal, the Lion of Judah. Everybody is waiting on the black man and woman in America to wake up and rise and remember who they are and play their role. But you cannot do it from the place of only seeing that you may be the pawn in the game. And you certainly cannot go to the extreme and just see yourself as king or queen in the game. That's one level of graduating. But there's a whole nother level of graduating till you own the game. The level of ownership. Ownership. And that's a whole nother teaching. This is why I say I believe that this is going to take us into a whole nother teaching where I might even do a workbook or something like that. But one thing I want to say is Rachel represented this change. It represents one who's migrating in consciousness, in the metaphysical. She represents one who is in this transitory state through love. Through love. She was already a beloved. She couldn't access her womb because that's all barrenness really is. And barrenness has many stories in this text, and sometimes there are places in our life where we feel barren. But your yes will continue to upgrade you and give you access to other ways to play the game. And so I invite you, ladies, to the game of yes and how to play it this month, as we will hear from other sisters on their perspective, so you won't just get just mine. And then when we get ready to come back to it, we'll come back with some 1, 2, 3 steps and strategies. But one of the things that I can tell you is that the game of yes is really not a 1, 2, 3 step. It's so dynamic and so organic, orgasmic abundance. There's a part of your desires, of your own heart, that you must begin to say yes to, even when it feels like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where this is coming from, how I'm going to do this. So that when you calculate your next move, you will be calculating from the place of strategy on the road to ownership and sovereignty, and not from the place of scarcity. Feeds more of the things that you are scared of. So I invite you, ladies, to join us. I am your host, and I thank you for bearing with us on getting on the call. This is your time to help us co-host and share what jumped in your belly, like the Mary and the Elizabeth relationship. If there's something that you heard or something that you had an aha moment about, this is your time to share that, and any praise reports or prayer requests at this time. The lines are open, at least from what I can see.
Good morning, good morning. Wow, this was power-packed and full. I have to say, first of all, I have to give a little bit of a testimony because, you know, I think Rev Coach and I have been together almost 3 years now. And the first time that I interacted with Reverend Latanya, one of the key topics that she talked on was the power of yes. And here we are 3 years later, and we're talking about our year of yes, and now we're talking about the game of yes and how to play it. And let me tell you, my life has not been the same. And today, just hearing that statement of, you know, even when you play the game, it does not guarantee you a win. Wow, 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 wow. And you're absolutely right. But playing the game guarantees me a seat at the table. Playing the game guarantees me a way to strategize. Playing the game guarantees me an opportunity to have fun. To have fun. And one of the things that really came out to me, and I love the fact that you use the chessboard, you know, as the main game comparison. simply because it's just confirmation of synchronicity and confirmation of, hey, Dana, wake up and listen. Because last night, as I fell asleep, I decided to turn on a movie on Netflix, and I wanted a good family-friendly movie because I try to research things for my kids and I to watch. And I came across this movie called The Queen of Katwa. Basically, it was about a young girl who learns how to play chess out of Uganda. And the main thing that she pointed out was a strategy in which, as sometimes when you're playing, even your pawn can become a queen. Even
That's
your
right.
pawn can become a queen. So even the little man can be queened. So I thank you for this entire series, even this year. We ain't even got halfway through the year. I'm thanking you for the year because this 1 year, has been amazing starting, and I can only imagine how we're going to end. So I thank you for this, and I thank you for just encouraging us to live in our yes, even as we play the game.
Yes, thank you. And look, real quick, everybody. The game may not guarantee you a win, but it guarantees you that you can get back in the game.
Yeah.
You just get back in the game. For many of us, we have had losses, and we don't get in the game. We start staying on the sideline. You can't even get to the next levels of yes's revelation because you gotta get in the game.
Oh yeah.
You may foul and you may even get kicked out the game. But when you are on a team, and when you are on Team Goddess, when you are on Team Process, this is my process, because the game is nothing but a process.
Mm-hmm.
And so you may, and everybody has a role to play. Even on the chessboard, everybody has a role to play. And guess what? Many of us have been learning how to play defense and not offense. And what an offense does is we initiate. Defense has to push away what's coming at us, and the employee mindset keeps you playing defense. The church, the church dogma keeps you playing defense. You're fighting an enemy that is not there, and you never get a chance to begin the fight of the enemy, the enemies that are inside of you. When you are in the game, you must meet the enemies. The enemies. And just like there are opposing enemies, there are some inner yous that are the aspects of the goddess. The goddess has many faces, but you cannot meet them when you will not get in the game and stay in the game and play your position in the game. Just for now, your position can change in the game.
Yeah. And Reverend LaTanya, the young lady in the movie last night said, even my losses teach me how to play the game better.
Yes. Absolutely, because what do players do? Professional players go and they study the tape.
I say.
But many of us who have had molestation stories, the divorce stories, abortion stories, failed relationships, who failed you? Who was grading you? Who said the relationship failed? Maybe that was your curriculum. Give thanks for the curriculum. Because if you had not had that heartbreak, if you had not had the situation that happened to you, you would not be able to have what you are having now if you're on this call, if you're in this community.
Okay.
I used to look at my father, and I used to see deficit. And I had to look at it in another way for a little while. As a daddy, I felt like a daddyless father. He wasn't really emotionally available. And guess what? I had to learn, what if he was there? Hell, I might have been on drugs. He was so strict and so mean. He went through a mean streak in his life. But maybe God removes things from you that looks like a theft. It looks like something was taken from you. It looks like a loss. It looks like a lie.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Okay, let me stop. Come on now. Who else got a belly jump? I'm coughing over here.
Okay, I got many belly jumps. When you said that you had birthed things for other people, and you said, "When am I going to say yes to me?" That is what I recognize I've been living, and what I had been living, and so I had to face the enemy, the inner me, just what you were saying, and recognize that I was in an employee mindset, recognize that I hadn't fully acknowledged, stepped into my power, and to change my mindset. And once I said yes to me, my life has started opening up. And so things have really started coming into my life to support me in my upgrade, because I recognize it, just because I may not know how to do it, I'm learning, I'm willing, I'm open to learning how to do it. I haven't seen it being done in my family, and I know that I'm here to change things in my family, in my lineage. And so, and embracing the women that are in my life, embracing the women that are coming into my life, because those are the ones who are showing me how, in addition to just to doing the work. So exploring, trying things, and not being so caught up into whether or not I master this or I do this quote unquote right, but just, if this feels right for right now, explore it. If it's not something that I want to do anymore, I don't have to do it anymore. So that just is just freeing me up to own my life, to have sovereignty, to enjoy my life. And in this space, things have just started opening up for me, and I'm getting back into that pleasure place in my life, which I had walked away from, and I recognize it was because it was time to upgrade my yes, and to get out of that that place that I had upgraded before, and it was time to take it to the next level. And so that's where I am right now. So I thank you for this call this morning, because it's just confirmation of like where I am right now, and to continue this walk.
Ashe. Thank you so much for sharing, Reverend Cindy.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else? Anyone else have a aha moment, belly jump? Don't be nervous with the new system. Let me know that it works. Come on now. We have time for one more before we go into prayer. I know we went over this morning a little bit already, and some of you are absolutely living your yes, even on this call that's listening. Now, when did y'all get shy? Not this group.
Good morning, LaTanya. This is Rhonda. I didn't want to. Good morning. I didn't want to take a long time, but just the whole call made my belly jump because of our journey, and I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. The reason why, especially those of you who work with me, the reason why my life is the way it is because I said yes. At the very beginning when I met LaTanya, we were on a group in Facebook. We didn't know each other from Adam. And all of you ladies know who Rico is and know how he has changed my life and how he supports me and our connection and our yes. That all started because I was divorced. I was looking for a change, and I was in that transitional space where most of us find ourselves, especially coming into this circle. You're looking for change in your lives. There's something, you're on the seek, and that's why you're here. So I was on the seek, and I reached out to the universe. I won't get into a lot of details, but I was looking for a mate from my past. And he reached out to me on Facebook. We hadn't talked in 20 years, ladies. And so I went to this group of women that I thought was a safe space and asked these women, well, this guy has reached out to me. I thought about him, and he popped up. but he was a quote-unquote thug from back in the day. What do you guys think I should do? It must have been 100 replies on there. And every last one of them was, if he was in the past, leave him in the past. They were all fear-based. I'm not going to, again, go into all that detail. It was one person that told me to say yes. Her name was LaTanya. She was early in her coaching, so this was what Rico and I have been together. We're working on 5 years, so this was 6 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. Doesn't matter. She was the only one that told me to say yes. And since then, I've been growing under her, saying yes to myself every time, over and over again, even when I can't see where the yes is going to come from. That's where our faith really steps in, and that's where the goddess energy steps in. That's where all this quote-unquote knowing comes into action. You can listen to this call, you can be the fly on the wall, but if you're not doing the work, ladies, to show and demonstrate your faith, then it's not going to happen for you. You got to say yes where it doesn't show up, where it looks like it's going to be nowhere. It looks like I don't know where this is going to come from. And once you demonstrate that faith, the universe opens up, and it keeps happening continuously and continuously over and over. And my life is a testimony to this work of yes, and being under this tutelage of Mama LaTanya is amazing. So say yes, ladies. Like I said, my belly jumped through the whole thing, and I can go through more detail about how this journey has been, but it has been phenomenal, and I'm still saying yes. And now things are happening in my life where I didn't even know I was going in this direction, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I can attest that the same is happening here. Thank you for sharing that. There are some of you who I watch, and because there are things I can't even invite you to. There's programs and some things I have for some of you in business that's coming. I'm just telling you, and I'm watching how you move, because you can't come to the seat at the table scared. You can't come to the seat at the table not working with the basics. There's some things that I'm working with to position you to prosper that we did a year ago. I think the position to prosper that we did, it happened right here in this space. Well, since that time, many of you have been getting in position. You've been making the move, but you must do the preliminary level work, and it feels sometimes heavy, and sometimes it feels like I don't know, I should do this. This goes against my principles. But who gave them to you? Who gave you those things? Because some of the things you need to return to sender. You accepted the packages that your mothers dropped in your lap. Come on now. Some of you accepted the packages that your father dropped in your lap. You accepted the money conversations that you had in the house or never talked about in the house. Come on now. You never seen people in love, but you watch it on TV and crave it. When she say, don't say yes to me, because that would be like Leah saying yes to Jacob. Say yes to that. This time I will give praise because you know who you are. Oh, my God. But anywho, I said that there will be one more. But we're going over a little bit. I do want to honor your time. This is a good time for prayer, wouldn't you say, ladies?
Yes.
Ashe. And calm on down. This yes word is a rich word, and it continues to be a tool that keeps on birthing me. And I believe that it's a tool that if you stay with it this year, it will continue to birth you. If you have something in your spirit that you really are desiring and it's scaring you, every week we call on the ancestors. I want you, those of you call on some of the old ones. And you don't have them in your family line, don't call on them. Call on the ones you admire. Because they answer. They are part, they especially when you call them by name. So speak their names into the space.
Carrie Ann Jackson.
Sophie Taylor.
Zonia Hurston. Dorothy Height.
Audra Lloyd.
Gina Horn. Audra Lloyd. Don't be very welcome.
And take a breath. Mother, Father, God, Holy Spirit, all that is, all that ever will be. We just thank you for this part of the highest form of our holy I am showing up in us, as us, and through us. We are connected with the one power, the one mind. There is a universal power seeking an outlet through us. The instrument of this power is our mind. Today we believe in this power. We believe that this is a power for good. We believe that this power of our mind is also connected to our womb and the desires and the specific tailored visions that we have for ourselves. And I pray for every woman on this call today and those that are connected to this community who are an interruption to the patterns of scarcity, to hiding, to running, to waiting, to slave consciousness and fear and people pleasing, that those things that we will pull down those strongholds that they have on us, and that we will raise up the same kind of energy and force against that with our yes. That we will be, that the word says, I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praises shall continuously be in my mouth. Well, we know that we are blessing the law of life, our life, the law of our life force, and no more of a life force than the woman who gives life, the woman who brings forth life. And so we give thanks for the Creator, and we give thanks for being the created. We give thanks that if we can create in one way, that we have ways to create in others. We give thanks for the creative faculty of our mind operating in our feminine consciousness. We give ourselves permission to investigate our truth. We give ourselves permission to redefine our womanhood. We give ourselves permission to win. But most of all, we give ourselves permission to get in the game. We thank you for our yes. For the song says, if I told you what I required of thee, would you still say yes? My prayer today is that our yes will be a firm yes, and that we will continue to affirm our yes. That we will start with the firm and we will move to the affirm, and that we will continue to affirm in the affirmament into the high places. And we thank you for the affirmament. That we thank you for the elevation of our consciousness, mind, body, and spirit, that it will be manifested in our abundant living, that it will be manifested in our healed relationship with ourselves and others, that it will be manifested in our voice and our ability to use it, that it will be manifested in our family lines and our children and our children's children, and that we will learn how to create legacies and reposition ourselves to prosper, and that we will pull down every stronghold of scarcity wherever it may hide within us, that we don't have to worry about anybody else right now, that it's okay to be a little self-full, like Leah got self-full. We give thanks for the womb that gives birth to the tribe of Judah. And that if every woman that is awakening, that every time this womb awakens, she awakens the tribe of Judah. And we thank you that our work is this sacred, and that even the little incremental steps that we take to stand in the ownership of the board of the game, like Akhenaten, the matriarchal leader beyond Egypt. We thank you for the cosmic ancestor Akhenaten. We thank you that even if you don't know her name, that even in hearing it in your consciousness, that something in your DNA and is fired. The word says piercing and dividing to joints and marrow. Hallelujah. Soul search. Thank you. We thank you that we are here. We are available to you. Here we are, Holy Spirit. Use us. Use our hands, use our eyes, use our mouth. Use our feet. Order our steps. Let our steps continue to be ordered, and that we will walk into the fertile place, and that every step that we take the path is continuously revealed. For this is, we let the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable. I send them forth to accomplish that which I have said, and that they will not return to me void. And let this be so, and so it is. Ashe. All right, ladies.
Powerful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for bearing with us.
Thank you.
This is our number. You can send me feedback inside Good Girls Gone Goddess. I would prefer that, when we post on the thread, if you got in okay, if you weren't charged, all of that good stuff, that this was easy for you. I did it for you. Would love to know how it worked for you on that side. And so I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I look forward to connecting with you on Wednesday at 1 p.m. in Good Girls Gone Goddess on Facebook. Ciao, everyone. Have an awesome Sunday.
Ciao.